today we have Emily to come here and talk with us. She has graduated from UC Irvine with a major, I believe, in political science and international studies. And now she is on path to law school. So she'll be sharing some information about that today and other tips and things like that too. And I'm pretty sure she'll be talking about her high school experience as well. So now I'll just hand it over to Emily. You can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. And I believe I shared a PowerPoint with you. If you could get that on the screen.
Yeah, just give me
Um,
1 second.
yeah, no problem. But super nice being here with you guys today. Thank you so much for having me. And to get an idea of who's present, are you guys mostly going into your senior year of high school, or do we have like a mix of grades?
I think most of us, most of the people here today are high school students, just from like freshmen to seniors. So like
Okay. Okay, awesome. So again, my name is Emily, and this is my presentation on how I got to where I am now. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so you're probably wondering who I am and why you should bother listening to me. I'm a recent UCI graduate. I graduated cum laude with a bachelor's in political science and a minor in international studies. Cum laude just means that I graduated within the top 8% of my class GPA-wise. The photo in the middle is me after my Zoom graduation with my dog Dipsy. And then to the right, we have a little anteater. So UCI's mascot is Peter the Anteater, so I thought I'd include cute little Peter. And I was also a legal assistant for 2 years, and I was the president of UCI's PreLaw Society. Next slide, please. So in order to get to how I achieved all of that and how I got to college, I'm going to go over my high school. I don't know if your high school offers academies, but personally, I was in my school's arts academy. I really enjoyed being in the arts program, and I don't regret it because in college, I unfortunately haven't had much time to do art, which is like one of my favorite hobbies. So I loved doing that for 4 years in high school. But unfortunately, it really limited my class schedule, and it meant I couldn't take many AP courses. I don't know if your high school has AP or honors, but AP is essentially like a college course offered at high school, and then at the end of the year, you can take the AP exam to hopefully get college credit. And honors courses are just more intense courses that you don't get college credit for. So going into high school, I didn't have too much confidence in myself. I didn't think I was very smart. So it was really a lot of friends who were taking APs, kind of peer pressuring me to take APs that drove me to take those. And I only took 3. I really regret not having taken more AP courses. So that's something I recommend you guys definitely take advantage of. Because if I had taken more AP for my major, which was political science, I would have been able to graduate in 3 years rather than the 4 that it took me. Um, this is also another pretty specific recommendation, but I've heard from some people that dual enrollment is better than taking an AP course. So my boyfriend had done dual enrollment in high school, meaning he was taking college classes in the morning and high school classes in the afternoon. So he actually graduated with his associate's or community college degree like a week before getting his high school diploma and was able to go into college with his associates already. That would be a little more ideal if you can take actual college courses rather than the AP ones, because you won't have to worry about an AP exam at the end of the year or go through College Board, but that wasn't an option for me. So if you have any questions about AP, honors, or academies, be sure to ask. But if not, we can move on to the next slide. So my favorite thing in high school was definitely my extracurriculars, and I was in way too many clubs. I was in the feminist club, Spectrum, which was our LGBTQ club, Team Green, which was environmental. Also, I forgot to list these, Be the Change, which was an activist group, and then I was also in our arts club. But my favorite club was mock trial. So I was never, ever interested in going into law. Um, What happened was my freshman year of high school, I was with my best friend Bonna, and a boy had chased her down. He was boothing for a mock trial trying to get people to join his club, and she said that she would go to his club meeting because she felt bad, but didn't really want to go. So at lunch, she was like, Emmy, you have to go to this club meeting with me. And I said, fine. So I went to mock trial with her. She ended up not joining the club, and I was freaked out because I didn't know anyone there, but it was the best experience. It was my favorite thing in high school. I went on to be the president of the mock trial team my senior year of high school. And then I have some photos from our competition up on the screen. So on the left, you can see me with a group of people, and a lot of these people are still my closest friends today. So the girl to the left of me is still one of my best friends. She is finishing up UC Berkeley right now. The closest girl to the right of me just finished UC Davis. And then the girl on the far right did a nursing program at USF and is now an emergency room nurse in Ohio. So we all went crazy different ways, so you don't have to be interested in law to do mock trial. I was also wondering if you guys have access to a mock trial team, if you know what that is, or if I should explain that. Oh, could you go back to the, sorry.
Sorry.
If
Uh,
you, yeah?
your question about mock trials, I think it'd be a good idea just to explain, just in case someone doesn't have that at school.
Okay, sounds good. So mock trial, essentially you get a fake case packet in I believe like October that details like a mock court case. And then you work on it with a group of high school students and you go to trial in an actual courtroom against other schools in February. So it is really awesome. If you don't have a mock trial team, I would work with ninth graders in college. I'll get into that later. And I would often encourage them to found a mock trial team at their school. There is just an overall mock trial board, I believe you can contact and get registered. Our school had just founded it the year before I joined high school, and they got sponsored by a local law firm to have a mock trial team. So if your school does not have mock trial, it is just the most amazing experience. I highly recommend it. Do see about founding one at your school. It was really great. And I personally, I am not the best public speaker, and I think mock trial is something. Yes, mock trial is amazing. Thank you, Ivy. I'm not the strongest public speaker, and it's something that really helped me with my public speaking. And it's also how I got interested in pursuing law and this political science path. So I didn't think I could be a lawyer because I wasn't the strongest public speaker. And then one day we had a lawyer come in and he told us, you know, most lawyers don't see the inside of a courtroom. And I didn't realize that before. I thought lawyering was all about going to trial, but most of it is like behind the scenes legal work, which is something that I was much more interested in. So it was after that presentation that I really started taking going to law school and being a lawyer one day more seriously, researching it more. So my junior year that summer, I did an internship at the GJEL Accident and Injury Firm in Orinda. It was a really awesome week-long crash course. If they still do it, I highly recommend. They have a bunch of lawyers from different fields come out and talk about their jobs. So I got to hear about law, but from a whole range of attorneys. I learned I don't want to do criminal law and I don't want to do intellectual property, and a lot of different areas of civil law sounded really cool to me. So that was awesome, and that's kind of how I got introduced to doing law. I also learned there that a lot of people who were pre-law did political science as an undergrad. And I was really interested in politics in high school. I like to keep up with the news, I still do. And I think politics can be really problematic sometimes. And I think in order to fix an area of the world where you think there's something wrong, you need to be able to understand it really well. And I feel like politics governs a lot of aspects of our lives, like more than we realize a lot of the time. So it's really an important thing to kind of understand how it works. Okay, and I think that sums up everything on this slide, unless there's any questions. If not, feel free to move on. Okay, UCI. I wanted to spend a minute talking about UC Irvine because I didn't see any other UC Irvine speakers yet, and it is such an amazing school. I know for me, so I'm from the Bay Area initially, if I haven't mentioned that. I'm from Clayton, which is a small town by Concord and Walnut Creek. So from East Bay, UC Irvine is like an hour from Los Angeles, west, so we're right on the coast, and about an hour and a half from San Diego. So a whole like 7 hours away from home. I moved pretty far. I did want to move pretty far from home just to learn about a new area, and the weather is so much nicer down there than in the Bay Area. I really enjoy living in Irvine. Um, so I have a couple photos on the screen. Oh, and I did go straight into college. So if any of you had questions about going to a community college or going straight into a four-year, I think that there's some situations and some majors where it's better to go to community college. And I think there's other situations where it's a lot better to go straight in, especially if you're STEM. But if you have some questions for me regarding that, if that's something you've been debating, like please feel free to ask, because I definitely have some opinions about that. But if not, let me talk about UCI for a little bit because it's such a great campus. In the middle is me and my friend Carlos being kind of dumb. Right after graduating, I went back to take some photos. On the right top corner is like my favorite place in the world. That's Laguna Beach, and it's only 20 minutes from UCI. So we are by a lot of beaches, which is really awesome because growing up, I didn't have access to many beaches. And it just feels like a mini vacation whenever I go. In the bottom right-hand corner is the Spectrum Center. That's a shopping center like 10 minutes away. Um, being from East Bay, there wasn't too much shopping around me, but down here there's so much shopping, and I shop way too much. And there's the cutest shopping centers. There's a lot more to do here than where I grew up, so that's very exciting. There's also such great food here. It's crazy. I can't imagine going back home because there's so many awesome food places here. The top left corner is Obama when he came to speak to our school. Unfortunately, I was not here. This was a few years before I got to college. At sporting events, we go zot, 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 and Obama had said zoot, 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 but we forgive him. And speaking of sporting events, we don't have a football team. UCI is not really a sports school. It's also not really a party school, but as someone who doesn't like either of those things very much, it was the perfect fit for me. And then the bottom left-hand corner is a shopping center that's right across the street. So if you're living on campus, it's really convenient. Did any of you guys have questions about UC Irvine in specific before I move on to my personal college experience? Oh, what did the years of learning general ed in university look like, and how is this compared to community college? My general ed courses were not bad. They overlapped heavily actually with my major courses. So something that I think is really important to note is poli-sci is a really fast major. So if I had come into UC Irvine with more college credit, either from AP dual course or from having gone to community college first, I would have definitely still graduated in 4 years if I went to community college, or 3 years if I had more college credit coming in. I know a lot of people who did political science and finished in 3 years just because it doesn't require many courses, and a lot of my general ed courses did overlap with my political science courses. You have certain requirements for your degree when you get to college, and there was a lot of overlap. So I ended up just needing to take a lot more courses to have enough units to graduate, which is why I declared my minor, and I can get into that later on. Versus for STEM, I think the general ed courses are a lot different from your actual major courses. If you're in the STEM field, there's not as much overlap. So my boyfriend had done dual enrollment, so he essentially went to community college before going into undergrad. He is a computer science major. He's actually computer game science, which is a UCI specific major. So if you're interested in video game development, we're like one of the best schools for that. So for him, it's still going to take him about 5 years to get his bachelor's on top of having what would have been 2 years of community college. So that'd be like 7 years to get his degree, versus for me, if I had more units, it would have taken more like 3 years. So I think something big to consider in terms of finances is community college can be a lot cheaper if you're like me and you're political science. Like my friend at Berkeley, she was able to go to community college 2 years, get out in Berkeley 2 years. But if you're STEM, it can be a lot longer. It can get a little more expensive. So I'd look more at going straight in. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but I hope that was helpful. But if not, move on. And if there's anything else you needed me to touch on more, like there'll be plenty of time for a Q&A at the end, and you can always contact me as well. Okay, so I'm going to get into my first year of college. Again, like I love my clubs, so I talk about some here. I joined less than I was in high school. I do recommend you take it a little easy when you first go to college. My first year grades were definitely my worst grades compared to all of college. I would get a lot of B's and I thought, okay, this is college, it's harder, I'm going to be more of a B student. But then I went on to get like basically A minus to A pluses straight second to the end of college. So it definitely, your grades are a little worse at the beginning while you're still transitioning. So these were some clubs that I joined. I went to the LGBTQ Resource Center for the first few months, and that's how I met a lot of my friends. So resource centers at the colleges will often do kind of bonding activities, and it's a really great way to meet people. Like some of my closest friends are from there, so I recommend you reach out to that. On a more professional note, I joined the Voter Registration Commission. So Associated Students is basically the college version of student government or ASB from high school. So I was in ASUCI, which was Associated Students at UC Irvine, and I was an intern for their Voter Registration Commission. My first year of college was in 2016 with that election, which was also kind of crazy being a political science student. It was a lot of talking about the 2016 election throughout my 4 years of college. And my voter registration commission was a nonpartisan commission that was aimed at getting people registered to vote. I think voting is super important. So we wouldn't encourage people to vote one way or the other. We would just get them registered and try to make a higher turnout for our voting population. And then those photos were from our ASUCI banquets. So on the left and the right is our formal event at the end of the year. And lastly, I was in the Anteater Photography Organization. Now, I know nothing about photography and I don't have a camera. I was taking all my photos on my iPhone, but I still joined because it was an awesome way to kind of explore. Every Saturday, APO would go on trips to different places in the area, and we would go take photos there, do little photo shoots. And as someone who isn't from the Irvine or even SoCal area, being able to go on trips with them was a great way to learn more about where I was living, what cool spots there were, and then meet some really cool people too. I did join the club with some friends, so that helped. So I wanted to include that because don't feel like because you don't have a certain resource, you can't join a club. Like I didn't have a camera, but I still joined the photography organization because I wanted to, and they were all super chill there. So don't feel like because you're lacking something, you can't be in a space. Okay, so next up I have my second year of college. So this is the year I declared my minor. So as I mentioned just briefly before, political science doesn't require many units. Each of your classes is a certain number of units, so usually like 4 units, and you need like 180 units to graduate. So even after taking all my major related classes, I still needed like 40 units or something crazy. So in order, or rather than just taking kind of random courses, I declared a minor in international studies. Now, international studies wasn't really to help me with law school in the long run. It was really just something I was very passionate about. I found that history, especially in high school, is very Eurocentric, and it's important to learn about more parts of the world. So I really love my minor. I think those classes were super, super interesting. I had a regional focus in Asia, and then I also joined the PreLaw Society. So my student government position from before was disbanded after 2016 since there's no big election. I'm sure that they're going to reform it for 2020. And I realized I kind of missed something I had in mock trial when I was with other people interested in law. So I joined the PreLaw Society. And I believe that this is structured kind of similarly in high school, but you can't go into a club and just be president right away. You have to work yourself up a lot, especially in college. So I just applied for their intern position and I was a fundraising intern. And then I also, through PreLaw Society, started applying for some legal assistant positions. So if you're interested in law, I definitely recommend you get involved with your pre-law group because they're going to have a lot of connections with local attorneys. So that is how I met my boss. He reached out to pre-law and asked if any pre-law people were interested in being legal assistants, and I applied and got the position. And I have more on that on the next slide unless there's any more questions. Okay, cool. So my legal assistant job was my first adult job. It was by no means my first job. I've been working since I was a senior in high school. My first job was at a bowling alley working kids' parties. When I got to college, my first job there, my first year, was working at a food court. It was completely awful, to be honest. I don't recommend you work at a food court or work with food in college. It was just not a great experience. And then my second year of college, I left that and I had another, not resume job, just kind of chill entry level job. I worked for parking kiosks. So UCI and every UC is going to have kiosks. It's all charged parking throughout campus, and I would work in one of the kiosks. If you guys ever need like an easy entry level job, I really recommend parking because I could sit in the parking kiosk and do my homework or watch Netflix if I wanted to and just get paid for being there essentially. Most people would use like the paid machines for parking anyways. So that was a really chill entry level job. But then again, this was my first adult job, so legal assistant. You can see me with my boss in the middle picture. My boss is awesome. He is a solo practitioner in Laguna Hills. So for those of you who don't know, lawyers will normally work in law firms, which are groups of multiple lawyers. Some really big law firms, we call that big law, are gonna have over like 100 lawyers in their office. It can be crazy. But some lawyers want to be solo practitioners, so it's just them opening up their own practice, taking on their own set of clientels. And this is really ideal for some people because you can set your own schedule. My boss chooses when he wants to go into the office and be done with the day. He chooses how he wants to do all of his cases, and there's like the most freedom with that. So I really enjoyed, and I think my legal assistant experience is different from a lot of other people's because he was a solo practitioner. And most people I know are working in bigger law firms as an assistant or an intern. My job was also paid, which is awesome. It can be really hard to find paid like legal internship type gigs while you're in college. And I really liked that I had a close relationship with my boss since he was like the only attorney. And then we would only have like 3 or 4 coworkers at a time. So I was very close with all my coworkers. And we had only about 30 clients, and I would know all of our clients. So I really like that I was able to build a lot of close personal relationships while on the job. But more into what I was doing. So there's my boss. He had polio when he was younger, so he has limited mobility in his arms and in his legs. He needs to use a wheelchair the majority of the time and can't type. So again, my experience was different from a lot of other legal
Miss Herman.
assistants. Um,
Julia.
sorry, one second. My experience is a little different. Because he can't type or himself, I would be working with him really one-on-one throughout the whole day. So rather than doing just phone calls or archival work like a lot of other legal assistants, I was doing a lot of the legal work alongside my boss. Um, it was a really good experience. It was very hands-on. And then if he needed to go to court, we would go to court with him, which was really fun. It was kind of like a paid field trip. So on the left, I have a photo of me and my coworker Amanda at one of the brand new federal courthouses in Los Angeles. It's a really beautiful multi-million-dollar building, and it felt super cool being there. I don't know if you guys have been inside a courtroom before, but it's so fancy there. Um, so when you go in, the rooms are all marble and super decked out, very cool. And on the right, I have a really cringy photo that my boss wanted to take of my coworkers and I in front of his wheelchair for some reason. I thought this was hilarious, so I wanted to include it. We are all in our like security vests with measuring tape because we are just retained by a really big restaurant chain to do inspections for ADA compliance of all of their locations. It's a really big chain, but unfortunately I can't tell you which one. Oh, which gets me to what I was actually doing on the job, what type of legal work we were doing. So we would do ADA defense work. So for those of you who don't know, the ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it basically makes sure that disabled people have the same rights as able-bodied people when they go to patron a company or like a business establishment. But there are a handful of serial filers, especially in California, who really take advantage of this. So let's say a small business has a counter, right? And the counter has to be 36 inches tall according to like ADA guideline. I'm not sure what the number is, but it's only 35 inches tall. Like it's just an inch off. And most of our cases were like this, where it was like something was an inch or 2 inches off. And then a serial filer will ask for like $6,000 to $20,000 in damages because they had to experience the counter being like an inch lower than it should have been. So my boss, being in a wheelchair himself, would kind of be like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous, like they should fix it, but this wasn't a big issue, it shouldn't cost them this much money. Especially these filers and these law firms will often go after small businesses because they can more easily intimidate them into paying a lot of money over something that they shouldn't be paying anything over because they'll be scared about the legal costs of getting an attorney. So that was the work I did at my law firm. Do you guys have any questions about me being a legal assistant or my job before we move on? If not, we'll have time at the end. How did you get involved in a law internship? So that was through the PreLaw Society. So different lawyers would often contact the PreLaw Society saying like, oh, I need interns if you guys want to set out this application to your members. So if you're interested in getting a good internship, even if you're not law, look for like kind of a related group on campus, and then those people are usually going to have more resources with getting you those good positions. So if that's everything, next up I have Saturday Academy of Law. So I had started working for my boss, the internship, while still doing parking, and then I quit. That was a crazy summer. I went like 3 weeks without having a day off. Oh my gosh. So, but I ended up working for him full time over the rest of summer. And then when I got back to school, I still worked for my boss part time. And then I also did this awesome program, SAL. So Saturday Academy of Law was really cool. So essentially, they would have ninth graders from surrounding school districts come to UCI Law on Saturdays for like 6 consecutive Saturdays in a row to do a SAL program. The ninth graders would be split into different groups based off of their school district. They would have a teacher from the high school come and teach them about something regarding the law. We would usually do more of an emphasis on your First Amendment rights or just like the first 10 amendments. And then the SAL TAs were all college students. We would help the kids in small group discussions, and do activities with them. So that was a really awesome program. I really enjoyed that. I liked working with the high school kids. I've always liked working with kids. And then a lot of our focus wasn't so much to expose them to law as it was to get them more exposed to this is what college looks like. This is a college campus, even though we were on the law school campus, and get them in touch with a lot of different college students, since a lot of them would hopefully become first-gen college students. They didn't know many kids in college. So that was really important to foster those relationships, and I really enjoyed that program. And the photo on the left is some of the kids from my course, and on the right, it's me with some other TAs. Okay. Awesome. So Pre-Law Society was definitely my baby in college. It was my favorite thing. So as I mentioned previously, my second year, I was an intern for fundraising. In my third year, I was elected to be the fundraising chief. So essentially, I was in charge of boothing and making sure we were able to raise enough funds for our club to function for that year. And then my last year, I was actually the president of Pre-Law. I was the co-president, technically. I did have a co-president. His name is Yvonne. And I have some photos here of some group activities we had. On the bottom left is a boba social. There's a lot of really awesome boba by UC Irvine if you like boba. Top right is a bonfire day we had, and then the bottom right is a photo of the board from the year as fundraising chief. And pre-law is awesome. It kind of reminds me of what you guys are doing with this program where you're introducing the high school students to a lot of college students and helping out people with their application and getting to that next step. We were essentially that for law school. So we would do a lot to try to help people prep for their law school application, since most of our members would become first-gen law school students. We would have admissions directors come out from various law schools, a lot of ones within California and NorCal and SoCal like UCLA, but we also had Yale. So we have people from all over come and talk about their law schools and what their admission looks like and maybe give some advice in regards to admissions. When you go to law school, you take the LSAT, which is essentially like the law school version of taking the SAT for college. So we would do free LSAT prep workshops and offer a lot of LSAT prep discounts for our members as well. We would have attorney speakers come out and talk about their journeys and what they were doing in their various aspects of law. And it was a really great program. And again, we also had a lot of local connections with other attorneys. So we were able to help people get internships. And then also just network with one another to have a future tight network of lawyers. So that was pre-law, and that was one of my favorite things in college. And I'm very happy I got to do. And that's all I have on that. If you want to go to the next slide. So the note I kind of wanted to end things on is that the unexpected can always happen. You may have noticed my last year of college, I didn't do as much. I was essentially just in school and just running pre-law. I couldn't do SAL any longer or work for my attorney, because I've been having a lot of medical complications for the last year. And I was hoping to go straight from undergrad into law school, but again, with a lot of medical issues, it looks like I'll have to put it off for 2 years. So I wanted to give you guys some advice that I really wish that I had going into all of this. And that is that even the most prepared person will still have to battle uncertainty in life. And when the uncertain happens, don't beat yourself up because things didn't go the way that you had planned, but also don't feel like you need to act like everything's perfect too. I think that social media makes it so we think that we need to put on a face all the time, that everything's always perfect, you need to act like things are always perfect, but it's okay to be upset too. If something bad happens, it's okay to feel sad about yourself for a little while and give yourself time to process what's going on. But at the end of the day, just always remember to continue to move on forward. And I think this is something we're all facing right now with COVID. These are unprecedented times, and I know for pre-law in particular, it took a while to adjust. We had to last minute put all of our speakers on Zoom or find new Zoom speakers, but we were able to make it work. So when that happens, just make sure that you always continue to give yourself time to process what's going on, and then make a new game plan and continue moving forward. Okay, and the next slide. So that takes me to where I am at today. So I was able to accomplish all of that, and I am still planning on attending law school. Unfortunately, I have to put it off most likely 2 years, but I'm excited to make the most of those 2 years and find something else fulfilling to do in the meantime. And now I'm open for any questions. And if you need application help in the future, if you need any advice, like I put my email up, so feel free to contact me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation. I'm
Thank you.
sure all of our attendees got to learn a lot about political science, pre-law, and what you did in high school and college as well. So yeah, like Emily said, everybody, she is open for questions. So now that we have around 15 minutes left, anyone who has questions can type them in the chat box. And yeah. So I actually wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
I remember you brought up like an internship program that you did for like a week, and
Mhm.
it was about lawyers from different like types of lawyers came in to talk about what their job was. What was the name of that internship?
That was, I believe, GJEL, possibly GJELL. That was an accident and injury law firm in Orinda. So if you're close to Orinda and they're still putting it on, I really recommend it. It is just like a crash course type thing. So I got to hear about all different areas of law, and that really helped me kind of narrow down what I want to do. One big thing about law is it can be a lot easier rather than finding that one thing you want to do, finding out all the things you don't want to do and narrowing it down since there's so many different things you can do with that.
And did you do that program in high school or college?
That was in high school, so that was my junior year of high school. Yeah,
Okay.
so I think it was mostly juniors and seniors in high school who did that. So if you're obviously in high school and interested, it's really great.
Okay, awesome. So Julia is asking, what is your favorite and least favorite thing about Irvine?
About Irvine? Gosh, okay. I like a lot of things about Irvine. I really love just living in this area is awesome. This is such a small thing, but the weather is great. I couldn't handle the weather in Northern California. But being by so much stuff is great. There's a lot more to do here. I love the beaches. I love the environment. UCI is an incredibly clean campus. It's really aesthetically pleasing. I really love living there. Least favorite thing, would honestly be the rent prices, just because we are in Orange County. It is expensive to live in Orange County and Irvine in particular, so that could be kind of difficult. That's not really on the school itself as much as just being in like this area. It's kind of expensive to live here.
Awesome. So we got another question. Noelle is asking, how did you deal with overlapping classes for general ed? And did you have to compromise?
Overlapping courses, that was not bad. So essentially my first year of college, I did this thing called Humanities Core, where we took a lot of humanities courses in an attempt to clear out a lot of general ed courses for people. Because the Humanity Core program was like an intensive class that checked off a lot of boxes. But then I realized later on, if I hadn't done humanities and I instead had just done some basic general ed courses, they would have overlapped with political science, and that probably would have been easier. Since that course was quite intensive, a lot of my like B's came from that. So if I were to do it over, I'd probably not have done that and have done just easier general ed courses instead. I hope that kind of helped out.
Okay, yeah. All right, thank you for answering that question. And then we have another question. Sam is asking, what are some things you wish you did during high school?
So again, biggest thing in high school is I really wish I had taken more AP courses. I think I just didn't believe in myself enough. I only took 3, and if I had done more, I would have been able to graduate within 3 years for sure. Political science is a really fast major, so if you do a lot of get a lot of college credit in high school, you can definitely do it in 3 years. So I kind of regret that, not doing more APs.
Okay. And so Katie is asking, do you have any college application tips?
College application tips. Ugh, it's hard because it's been so long. Just start early. I did start pretty early on my writing sample part, so I think that definitely helped. I wasn't as stressed later on. Um, the tests are difficult, just don't beat yourself up over that too much. I took the ACT twice and I was able to increase my score a lot. It's been a while, so I can't remember my numbers, but I would definitely recommend taking like the ACT 2 times, because most people I heard who did the ACT multiple times like improve their score. So.
Okay, awesome. And so Anam is asking, what are some other career paths you can go into with a political law degree besides law school?
Besides law school, oh, that's a hard one because I've always been so focused just on law school. Um, Political science, I mean, you could be like I believe a political analysis. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do with politics. I'm not too sure though in specific what I would do if I was not interested in going into law. I think I would still want to go back. And I was bringing this up with you earlier. I'm interested in doing maybe a JD MBA program, so getting my business degree alongside a law degree. If I didn't go to law school, I'd probably still go to business school so I could do something more business related because there's not always the most flexibility with political science. Some people do try to go more straight into politics, but if you're interested in going to politics, it's still more beneficial to go to law school first before, yeah, with the politics background.
Okay. Hopefully that answers Anam's question. And so we got another question from Noelle. She's asking, how do you write college essays? What are the topics about, and how do you make a comprehensive essay about yourself?
So this is a really great paper. Really great paper. Oh my gosh, really great question. Could you specify if you mean essays in college or the essay for your application to college?
I think she means college, yeah, essays for applications.
For application. Okay. So you want to show the college that you're a really great person when you're writing. And I think it can be kind of hard to be boastful about yourself because we're really taught to be humble. But just don't be humble in your paper. Talk about how awesome you are, but don't talk about it directly. So don't write like, I am so awesome, but talk about an experience that's really going to highlight how great you are and how great of a leader you are, maybe. So yeah, be sure to know what you want to hit home, what you want the reader to kind of get from your paper. But don't say it like directly, like, I'm a leader. Say, like, oh, look at this cool experience I did that I learned so much from that really showcases your leadership experience. Um, yeah, I think that would be my best advice. Not all colleges are going to weight the writing sample as much, though. A lot of it is going to be looking at your GPA and your SAT or ACT scores, but some schools are more holistic in your application and their approach to it than others. So I know like UC Santa Cruz, for example, is going to weight your writing sample a little more heavily than some other schools, and that could be a plus or a negative.
And so that's great, thank you. And so Ivy's asking, do you have any tips for pursuing a law career?
For pursuing a law career, so I like what I did, so I'm gonna sound a little bit biased. I do like that I got my political science degree, and something really important for law school is they're really gonna weight your GPA and your LSAT score quite heavily above your softs, which would be your resume, your writing sample, and your letters of recommendation. So it's really important to have a strong GPA. And for me, I knew with political science, I could get a much higher grade point average than maybe if I had done something STEM related. The con to that would be that you can have a few more opportunities in law school if you are STEM because the majority of people are not. So if you're interested in going to law school, I might recommend picking up a STEM minor. That was something I considered that I kind of regretted not doing. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
It was, do you have any tips for pursuing a law career?
Ah, okay. So yeah, just major in something you know you're gonna do well in GPA point wise. You can major in anything and go into law school unless you want to go to intellectual property and be a patent attorney, then you need to have a STEM background. But for anything else, just do something you feel really confident about. I think it's really good to have gotten a legal assistant position for so long because I could say I was with my law firm for like 2 years. um, Most places post grad, if you have like a poli sci degree and want to be a legal assistant, do ask that you already have 2 years experience. So that would have worked out quite well for me. Fortunately, given the circumstances, that kind of changed, but I would recommend doing that. And being involved in mock trial really helped. Being involved with PreLaw Society really helped. Something I wish I'd gotten to do during college I recommend is research. Not as many people do research, but that can be really helpful in helping you stand out on a law school application.
And so just a little bit more about that. Like, do you think it would
Yeah.
be a good idea to do maybe speech and debate club if you don't have like mock trial club at your school?
Yeah, I think that'd be great too. We were kind of like the mock trial slash debate team, so once the mock trial season ended, we would do some debate stuff. Public speaking is always super, super helpful life skill, especially with going into law. If you plan on being a type of attorney who's in the courtroom often, I think that'd be great. Yeah, and if your school though doesn't have mock trial and it sounded kind of interesting, it was just so much fun. I really recommend just trying to start something up.
Awesome. And so Venetia is asking, why did you choose Irvine?
Ooh, so I didn't even know Irvine was a school till like my junior year of high school. My friend was talking about how she had gone and toured it. I thought it was just such a beautiful campus. They kind of say that when you're touring colleges, you'll get to some campus and you'll just know it's the fit for you. And I never believed that, but that was honestly the feeling I got at Irvine. I checked out a couple other UCs, but I just didn't feel at home there. But Irvine was just such a beautiful campus, and I just loved the atmosphere here. I knew it was the college I wanted to go to. I really love the area. I did want to go to SoCal after growing up in NorCal. So it was exciting to move here pretty far from home. We're not in like any big city, like we're not by LA, so it's a little more slow, but there's still like a lot more to do here versus where I grew up, and having all the beaches and such great shopping and such great food just make it really fun to live here. And the environment's really nice.
Awesome. That's really nice to hear. And so then Ivy is asking, could you elaborate more on the research aspect? Because she would always imagine research being more for STEM. So how does it apply to law, I guess?
So, research is not always STEM. So here you can do research. I believe like any major, but again, being poli-sci, I mostly hear from other poli-sci students. It seems very cool. I again wish I had been able to do it. You would do research more one-on-one under a professor who's doing like a thesis. So it would be more a political science or social science thesis that you come up with, maybe about a social issue, and then how like yeah, like it's mostly on like social issues and whatnot. And then you would do your own research into that. I don't know too much about it again since I wasn't able to do it, but there is a lot of social science research, mostly into like ongoing social issues that we face today. Um, yeah, you can look up, there's a lot of really great like academic papers and stuff. I'm sorry that this is such a vague answer, but you do research one-on-one, no, mostly under a professor who is doing their own kind of dissertation, working alongside them with maybe helping them with their research, or doing your own while being kind of proctored by a professor.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I think that was a completely great answer. I don't think
Oh,
any
okay, thank you.
particular. Um, so yeah, I'm looking at the time right now and we have around 5 minutes left. So if anyone else would like to ask like one or two more questions, we can accept that and then hopefully just wrap it up after that.
Okay. Really quick, going off the last thing, research doesn't always have to be boring too. I think that can sound quite intense. I know a lot of professors who do really fun things. If you guys have heard of the furries, I know this is kind of a silly question, but my professor's dissertation and research was all on like furries and politics. So it's on like really crazy things. Research can really be on anything.
And so, okay, looks like we got one more question. I'll just have this be the last question. When do you ask for letters of recommendation?
Okay, I forget if you from high school would have needed a letter of rec or if you mean on the college level.
I'm pretty sure she means college level.
College level? Okay, so for me, it was kind of hard to find a letter of rec, and I think a lot of people are gonna find that at a UC because our classes can have like at least the general ed classes will have like over 100 students in them. For me though, my upper divs would have like around 30 people, so that was more easy to have a closer one-on-one relationship with the professor. Um, so also if you take a certain professor multiple times, it's more easy to have a better relationship with them. They're gonna know your work a little bit better. A good professor to try to get an upperative, or no, sorry, to get a letter of rec from would be your upperative writing. So you have to take lower division and upper division writing while in college. So your upperative is going to have a lot more knowledge on how strong of a writer you are. And if you're going into law school, you definitely want to showcase that you're a really strong writer, because one of the most important things for a law school application is going to be your writing. So that would be good. And then you want to make sure that the professor remembers you. So a lot of professors are going to have really cut and dry templates. And if they don't know you very well, they're just going to send that in. And that's not always going to look very great. I've heard a horror story from an admissions director who got a letter of rec where the teacher had said not to admit the person into law school, because they had asked multiple times, like, hey, write me a letter of rec, and the professor said, no, I'm not going to, until the person bothered them enough. So the professor said yes, and then they're like, no, don't admit this person. They didn't listen. So you want to make sure when you ask a professor for a letter of rec that they seem really enthusiastic and excited to write you a letter. So for me, I had a closer relationship with the professor. I knew he liked me as a student. He commented on how like my writing stood out to him before, and then he offered to write me a letter of rec. So that was honestly like ideal situation. I didn't even have to ask, and then you know that person's gonna write you a really, really strong letter. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So hopefully that answered Noelle's question. Yeah, so we're almost out of time now, so I think I'm just gonna wrap it up. Once again, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us today. I really appreciate it. SUMP really appreciates it, and our attendees probably really appreciated it too. Yeah, we're getting thank yous in the chat. And
Oh,
yeah, so all the attendees, she did put her email on the slides. So if you want to reach out to her, email us and we can provide you with contact info so you can reach out to Emily as well if you have any more questions. And yeah, that is about it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.
so thank you so much for having me.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.